All right. So today we're just going to talk about a few things and then quickly go into questions because you guys have a bunch of them. We have some events coming up. As you guys know, South by Southwest Create, March 13th at Long Island Center in Austin. Looks like Jody's going to be there and also Ash, in addition to Ben and Major. So you guys have fun. Be careful out there. There's also ST Drink Up if you're in Kansas City. Major actually sent a whole list of events that he will be attending. So see if you guys are around the area. We would love to have you there. We're hoping in 2 weeks we're going to have guest speakers from Grove Stream, Mike Ostaff, and also Mike Mills. These are actually Patrick's contacts. They're amazing. They are going to discuss third-party data logging to allow end users to log their own data points. And also Mike, just his company, like how his company actually parses and processes big data. And, it'll be cool to kind of question them too, right? So thank you, Patrick, for getting that connection for the next meeting. So spread the word, everyone. It'll be fun. So launching in around April, we're probably going to start doing these workshops that I've been working on. So if you're in Palo Alto, I will send some more information out, but I would love to have you guys join us on those, and I'll send more information out about that. Some top issues. 2 weeks ago, we had a lot of sunrise and sunsets, things that were popping up in the community. As you could tell, that's rarely happening now, and it's kind of nice to see that it's dropped off from our top 10. So thank you, Tyler, and or Tyler Hall and his team for, doing that, and also the engineers. Major says, because he's not here, please send me your smart app submissions that you feel haven't been looked at yet. We're slowly going through the queue, but making progress. We hired someone to help with those process and submissions that will start next week. So I'm really excited about that too. And we will focus on smart apps discoveries for users and developers. So really, really exciting news. And then Major and I are building a team of trusted ambassadors who can help us advocate and promote our platform at meetups, hackathons, developer events. And, they will also be gathering feedback for our platform and influence the SmartThings team. So if you are interested in being an ambassador, feel free to ping us, or you can stay tuned for a more formal announcement on our developers portal.
Can I be the ambassador of SmartThings to Fiji? That's where I want to be.
Nope, I'm on that list first.
Okay.
Might have to send you Todd to find out.
All right,
thanks, April.
Cool. So that's kind of it, and then we'll jump into questions. Jim, did you want to do an update real quickly?
Sure. So from the documentation side, I've been working on basically doing a big refresh on our developer or device type guide, reorganizing and expanding content there. It's out for review. I don't expect it to go live till next week. I just want to give our engineering staff some time to review it. And then aside from that, I think we'll want to do some more, I want to socialize some more of our short-term and long-term plans around the documentation. I think, look for a forum post next week about that, where we'll be getting some of your feedback and just kind of telling you guys where we think we're headed, both like in the immediate future and then longer term with, you've heard this talk about a developer portal and where we're going with that.
Cool. Thank you. Gilbert?
Hey.
What a cute puppy.
Thank you.
Can we pester you a little bit about some of the updates?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we just kicked off recently is actually recently as in today. We're spending some time on what our next generation UI is going to look like. So I don't have anything specifically to share there, but we're rethinking about how we can make it a lot easier for you to set things up and not have to install multiple smart apps, and how you may want to reorganize things. I think there's a split between people wanting to use the things view versus the dashboard view, and we're trying to find some consolidated visual that makes it a lot easier for you to get controls over your things, and a lot easier to set up. Me specifically, I'm working with a lot of device partners on new integration.
That I can just go quickly.
And I think that we're just all really busy getting ready for our Hub V2 launch, which is still set. I don't have a date, though.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Tyler?
Cool. Can you guys hear me? No feedback, huh? Cool. Can you guys? They're nodding. Can you guys hear me? Can someone say something?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'll just use. Okay, cool. All right, so we have a couple updates from the certification team. First of all, we had some questions from the forum, which I'm trying to pull up right now. I thought that I had it. Here it is. So Todd had some questions on the forum about how our certification process actually works and what we're doing right now, as well as just some clarifications around what a certified means. So you can definitely check out the post, which I'll link here, but a couple of things. So first of all, a device that's certified means that it's been tested by our certification team. We have test plans that we execute against devices. So for a door sensor, we'll make sure that it works as advertised and that it's sending the proper commands, and no errors are being thrown, that our platform is handling it well, and that the device is actually functioning besides at a code level, but just doesn't work well. We test against every client that we support. So right now that's iOS and Android and Windows Phone. We also do code reviews on integrations that are either sent to us by partners or the community. We are hiring in our device certification team. We have 3 positions open in our Palo Alto office right now that are related to device certification. That's actually the certification engineer who executes the test plans. That is the software development engineer who's working on device types, and the software development engineer who's working on smart apps. So if you're interested in working in those areas at all, we'd love to talk to you. Send me a PM on the forums, just the username Tyler. So Todd's other question was if we support issues with OEM functionality. So say that your lock, your Z-Wave lock isn't working correctly, do we help customers with those issues? And the answer is yes. Our support organization doesn't really draw a line, we do support this, we don't support this. The one exception might be with custom code, but for a lock, we'll do everything that we can to answer a question about that device, even if it's past the SmartThings platform and more an issue with the lock itself. Of course, we'll let you know if you should contact the manufacturer, but just generally speaking, we try to handle it all in that one point of contact and not throwing you around multiple departments. And finally, again from Todd, I guess not finally, but from Todd, if a device is certified, does that mean that all functionality is exposed or working on the SmartThings platform? Right now, that's not the case. So an example, still using locks. We don't support lock code management yet at the platform level, though it's coming. So even though that feature isn't in our device type handler for locks, it is certified. So moving forward, we're going to have stricter requirements about what it means to be certified as far as using all the functionality of the device. But I doubt we're going to say all devices must use all functionality. I'm sorry? No. Okay. So the other things were just about some specific devices. Daryl had a question about the linear garage door opener, if it's certified yet. The answer is no. However, it works with the default device type, which is Z-Wave garage door opener. It works great. The one thing that will not work at this point is that you cannot add it to doors and locks to automate it as a garage door, which is kind of a big gap. And so we're waiting for the certification on that until the platform and the mobile app have that ability to add the garage door opener in there. The second one would be the Iris Waxman Shutoff valve. You can't really see it, but there's one 10 feet away from me this direction. It again works with the default device type. So the Waxman valve will pair as a Zigbee water valve, and it works great. We're waiting on just certification prioritization to get to that one. And let's see. Gary, your last question was about our device submission process. Where are we at with that? You say you submitted something in January and it's still showing the status of submitted. We are hiring into that role right now. We have somebody starting soon for that, and we've have hired for that in the last couple of weeks. As I think Major said, with the Smart App submissions, or was it April, we're making quicker progress there, and we hope that we can get some of those cleared out and catch them on the backlog. So that's anything that is related to device certification. If you have any questions, I'll be in the chat room, or just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Hey, Gilbert, I think this one's for you. Cool Taco Daryl was asking, I would like to know the official device certifications for the following devices: linear garage door control and the Iris Waxman water shutoff valve.
Yeah, Lang just spoke to both of those just now. I think the linear one is going. Yeah. Thanks. Certification is in Lang's court, even though we punt the ball back and forth quite a few times.
Awesome. And then Gary, or do we go through all the questions for Gary's?
Yes.
It's a question or two about low-hanging fruit, about bugs that are in the system that should be trivial to fix, but don't seem to be getting fixed.
Gary, can you give an example of some of those? I'm sure there's a laundry list of those. But what are some of your higher priority ones?
Well, just as an example, I can give an example. The dimmer switch device type has a bug. It was I reported it. It was reported about a month before I reported it. It's a one-line fix, and it's still there. And apparently, you have a bug tracker, and it's in there. It just, as a user developer, somebody who's basically giving my time do smart things to fix these things and to contribute, it's kind of discouraging to see what are trivial bugs not getting fixed. I know in my professional life, I grasp at those things. I like, oh yeah, low-hanging fruit, easy fix, big impact. Yeah, let me go at it. It takes me 10 minutes to fix a bug, and it looks great.
Yeah, I completely get that. I think right now we're all really scrambling really hard and heads down on a lot of stuff that we have a lot of time pressures on. So we don't have the capacity right now to really look at those. I know that it may be a 10-minute fix, and we should do it. It's just we have to kind of get up and breathe for a little first, before we can start tackling some of those.
We'll look for that specific one though, and other ones. And the good news is, there's a lot of times when we onboard a new engineer, they will take a lot of that low-hanging fruit. So I think that we will hopefully see more of that as we grow the team. Anyone have a link for that one?
Okay.
No?
Okay.
Get it? All right.
Okay. All right, so P. Stewart wants to see these issues addressed. Android parity with iOS chart tiles, image carousel tiles, presence reliability, additional to Wi-Fi base.
Yeah, right now Android is still going through a really, really, really big overhaul. Sorry, Tyler. But yeah, Android's going through a very big overhaul that's going to address a lot of those to really kind of get it back to parity, and maybe at some point, maybe even beyond that. But we took all the Android code, ripped it all apart, refactored everything, and we're still kind of piecing together everything. Tyler has an early build of it, and he's been able to play with it a little bit, but still not quite ready for public beta at least.
Yeah, I can actually speak to the mobile. Yeah, I'm here, Tyler. I can actually speak to the mobile stuff and what we're doing there, just to give you a high-level view. So on the mobile side, on iOS and Android, we're actually looking to release a version that's 1.7.0. And in Android, that's basically kind of a complete overhaul of the application that's going to address massive performance improvements, as well as tile performance, as well as just usability. And we're doing the same thing on iOS too for performance optimizations, making the app start up faster. And this will allow us to, in the future, do some really cool stuff around, different tiles and more UI control widgets available for developers. So we're kind of on track to be releasing that shortly here in the next few weeks. We do have kind of a deadline for that. And then on the Windows front, we're kind of plugging away on the same type of dynamic tiles as what we're calling them. And that's going to kind of also be released pretty soon. What the iOS, Android, and Windows projects will be doing here shortly in the next couple weeks and months will be actually getting on a release cycle. That will mean that we'll be fixing bugs and shipping bugs to the app on a 4-week release cycle. So no matter what the bug is, if it kind of comes up, if it fits in this release train cycle, there will be an automatic deployment and automatic delivery of features and bug fixes. So you can kind of start to expect a release train cycle that happens every 4 weeks, similar to what Facebook does with their iOS, with their applications, as well as a lot of other companies. And we're applying this to all the platforms, with 4 weeks as being that up to a 2-week release cycle, so that we're always shipping a new version to the store every 2 weeks.
And does that also include like a desktop app in the future, out of curiosity?
The desktop app for Windows or any of the platforms has not been prioritized yet. If anything, we'll be looking at tablet as the next avenue. And on Windows, that will actually provide really nicely for a desktop experience, but we haven't done any investigation yet on like a Mac desktop application or a Linux-based thing. I think before we kind of tackled those, we would look at how to do a web-based application for controlling devices first.
Okay. And then encryption in IDE and share encryption code within the community until an app store is released. SD would still have the keys to view all source codes. P. Stewart is just wondering if something like that will exist. Is Bob here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm not quite sure I understand the question. It's encryption of what?
For what I believe is encryption with the codes that they release with smart apps.
The lock codes?
No.
Specifically?
No. This is around the idea of source control. Right now, the only way to release a source-controlled app, is to put it through the review cycle. The issue really simply is, in order to potentially get more folks into the community without having to share code, the concept's pretty simple. You upload the code to the IDE, you hit save. When you hit publish, you have an option to publish with encryption. The resulting back would be an encrypted element you could copy and paste into the IDE, and it would execute as a smart app that would be installed. That way the source code can be protected, but it can also still be shared within the community.
I mean, we're looking at, we talked before about the fact, we do have a backlog in the processing of subscriptions. I mean, we're not looking at that sort of, you can't see what an app does and have individual users install the app. I mean, our model for publishing things and the submission tools right now support this. If you uncheck the open source box, that submission doesn't go into the repository that makes the source code available. It's still available for us to review, and it has to be. And right. That app would wind up being published and installable by anyone without seeing any source code at all. But we're not looking at it like an encrypted, users self-publish an app that they don't know what it does. I mean, that would have to go through our review process, and we'd have to see that source code in order to approve it.
But you have no review process for copying and pasting any random code into the IDE that the user can see.
Well, no. I mean, you can do whatever you like in the IDE in your own account, but we don't have any process where someone would paste some sort of encrypted blob of stuff into the IDE and get that version. And in other words, once it was approved through the process, it would be available for anybody to install. We don't have anything that's like a subset of the community that would have some mechanism of installing an app without seeing the source code.
Right. No, I understand.
Patrick?
Yeah.
Patrick, can I ask a question?
Yes.
What problem are you trying to solve? Maybe if you gave me an example, I'd understand, because I'm not following you right now.
Well, I've had several different third-party companies want to do an integration that have reached out to me, but they don't want to release their code open source. They've also heard the long delays of approvals, but their products are aimed at the developer community, but they don't want to share the code. They also want to try to figure out a way to monetize the access to the application, and there's no way to do that within SmartThings today. So releasing it as a free, effectively extension of SmartThings is not their avenue of desired effect here, but selling the code to copy and paste, even if it was approved, at least there's a transactional cost associated with that.
I see. That puts it in the context now. I think that's where, Bob, maybe you were kind of like, well, what are you trying to do?
Yeah. I mean, functionally, there's no difference between me making code available on a website, copying and pasting in the IDE, or making it a series of encrypted text that copies and pastes in the IDE. The functional result is the same. You have zero control over that today.
You want to sell an app.
Are you asking for binaries, Patrick, where the code you submit to SmartThings is available as a source code for them to look at, and then the user can only see a binary that doesn't show the actual function of the code?
In a sense, yes. It doesn't have to be binary. It can just be encrypted text, that's pasted in there and then decrypted by the IDE.
So, I mean, we have on our roadmap the ability to submit non-open source apps and to have a mechanism for monetizing those. We don't have that yet. I mean, right. We're not looking at doing something that makes use of copy and pasted encryption text as a short-term measure, but we're going to focus on that longer-term objective.
Patrick, and this doesn't resolve all of your questions on this, but have you seen how SmartTiles/Action Dashboard has been doing their installation method right now?
I have not looked at it. I will.
All right. Yeah, I mean, check it out. You go to smarttiles.click. I guess .click is a thing now, and you can install it basically code free. A user could install it who doesn't even know about the IDE. Essentially, they still have a developer account, but they wouldn't have to go into the code. They could still go and look at the code, and so that's the one problem. There could be some sort of paywall put in between that process by the external developer at their website. I believe this is a thing that we have to address as a company, not just people are going to want to do it. It's been part of the promise since before Kickstarter that we're really interested in this marketplace. We've just been obviously very, very slow with it. I'm glad that we have it though. We still need to iron out before we can really release this. The first of them is discoverability and some sort of better mechanism for publishing it in. It's an interesting thing you point out, though, about not wanting to have open source everything. We should definitely look at it.
Yeah, well, the other thought, and it doesn't appear that there's any supported methods for streaming in code from a external source and have it executed. It looks like you lock that down. I assume you wouldn't be willing to look at that either.
No, like streaming in code that we haven't reviewed and allowing it to be executed on the platform.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Did that answer all your questions?
The community is strictly open source and has no plans to change.
I wouldn't say that. No, I mean the roadmap is to have the ability to submit non-open source apps and to eventually be able to monetize them, but we're not quite there yet.
Patrick, I'm not sure if this is along the same lines as what Ben was talking about, but I found that if you have some kind of device that's authenticating with OAuth, then and you have your smart app published just even locally in your own IDE, then anyone that connects with that OAuth fingerprint will connect to your app, even though it's not published officially.
Sure.
I'm not sure if that's by accident or on purpose, but it works.
Yep.
That's exactly how people can get to ThingLayer, which is by logging in their account. They don't have to install a smart app or anything.
I don't know. Is there an official statement on whether or not that's a supported feature or a bug?
We are not at this point saying that that's a supported feature. I believe it's an unintended consequence.
So it could go away at any time, is what I'm hearing.
It could. I don't know of any immediate plans to do that, but.
Well, considering the backlog of open issues, I would hope that this wouldn't take priority to fix.
Right.
Well, it depends on whether anyone abuses it or not. But
yeah.
so
So let's
far,
talk about
that hasn't happened.
unencrypted passwords for a second.
What was that, Patrick?
Oh, there's a couple weeks ago we had a little conversation on the community forums about the password input type is logged in plain text within the IDE and survives the install of the application, but app settings does not. So the IDE documentation says that app settings is the protected and preferred method for storing things like secret keys, passwords, that type of stuff. But there's no way to map the input type to an app setting. It's stored in the settings array. And if you log the settings array, which the default smart app install or initialize application does, you see the password in plain, anything with a password input type in plain text, even though it's masked out in the state variables for the smart app. Apparently, behind the scenes, it's being stored in an encrypted manner, according to someone who from SmartThings that posted this. But anytime you log settings dot whatever input type, you end up getting the plain text result of the password.
Yeah, so that's clearly a bug. I mean, we did implement encrypted password settings. If that's still being logged by the default installed and updated methods, we should make sure we have we'll make sure we have a ticket for that. And
yeah, I had a ticket. Unfortunately, support told me to take it to the community, which I had a real big issue with, taking a security issue to the community, but we dealt with that. So let's air it out in the full public here. Passwords as an input type are not secured to the local IDE. And if they're accessible through the smart app, then frankly, they're vulnerable.
I mean, the only thing I would add is that, we also support OAuth 2 and essentially any smart app that stores passwords, that's not the best security model. If that's the only thing that the client supports, then
yeah, but you have to put the API key in some sort of secured manner. So I mean, at the end of the day, if the API key is vulnerable, then anybody can access the API key or the token.
There is a separate. I don't know if we've addressed this in the documentation or not. It should be in the examples, but independent of the app settings, there's the ability to have a not a per installation value, but a per smart app value to store things like secrets and API keys and so forth that don't appear in the code, and I don't believe they appear in the logged output either. I mean, if you change your smart app to
right, but that's the app settings, but that doesn't survive the install of the smart app. That's only for the state of the installing of the smart app in functionality. But once the app is declared installed, the code does not have access to the app settings. It only has access to the settings variable and state variables.
I don't believe that's the case. If you could, send us an example.
Yeah, I can send you many examples.
Yeah, but Patrick, it's not vulnerable unless you say to log it out. So that's up to the device developer to keep that from being an output between the IDE and where the session is actually running on the server, right?
Yes, Todd, but the default action for every install or update is to output to the logger the value of settings.
Of settings, correct. But
which would include any input type password without masking.
The only point I'm trying to make, Patrick, is that if you don't want that to happen as a person writing the code, you can not, or you can take the log setting out of there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
But it's an issue, and if anybody needs to have access to it, it's easily accessible because the object is not encrypted.
Anybody?
Inside the ID, if you want to get the password of what a smart app is installed or any input mask type, all you need is smart app access to the ID.
You'd only have the access to your own password in the IDE.
Well, yeah, if it's a normal operation, but if someone were to gain access, it's only a weak password away. Any running smart app would be vulnerable. And that's just like saying, well, just because it's behind a password doesn't mean that it shouldn't be encrypted, in the normal usage of it. I agree with you. The risk is minimal, but ultimately it's an exposure.
I was hearing in the beginning that it was a inherent bug that had no workaround, and that it was a considerable vulnerable situation.
Well, the other issue, trying to remove it from the settings variable.
Yeah.
To remove it.
I understand your position now, Patrick. I just didn't at the beginning.
Yeah, there's multiple issues around password input types. Is they survive any attempt to remove them or clear them because they exist within the install of the smart app.
And that's where Bob's point of using OAuth came up.
Right. But hopefully everybody will adopt OAuth 2 standards. But if they don't, you got to do something else.
I think we all agree that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. I think we should move on from this particular point now.
Will there be any options to have any master account to manage multiple accounts from Ash? Ash, by saying Ash, I meant he's the one who asked that question.
What would the use case for this be?
I believe he's asking if you can have like an API access to other SmartThings accounts.
Possibly it could be for like I could see this for like a full family in case like they only want the kids to have such access to certain things and not so then they can actually see and monitor what they can have access to versus you as the adult or the parent. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ash. Is that what you're asking for?
I think that's what he was talking about. He's on an airplane though.
So I'm not sure if that was it or not. One thing, we have the ability to share accounts now. To recognize this a limitation that you can only share an account if you can't share one, or you can't share things at location levels, and you can't share with people that are already have SmartThings accounts. So that if you have two people and they buy a vacation house together, they can't have a location and have both of them access that vacation house, but each one have access only to their own, residence. And that's an issue that's recognized and is on the roadmap. We've talked about the other thing that April was just referring to, which is like within a location, finer grained access controls. The access control model supports that, but the concern there is to build something that's not too complicated for the users. We're still trying to move the user experience in a direction that makes it more accessible to non-technical users. And so I think that's probably further off than the ability to just create and share a location with another existing SmartThings user, and not to share all your locations.
Hey, can I ask Bob a question relating to that right quick?
Sure.
I ran into a couple of weeks ago when you go to select devices to allow SmartThings to access, I've discovered that that's more of a filter and not an exact permissions list where you're giving a specific grant of permission. Because once you select a device and allow, say through OAuth, you allow just the temperature setting of a thermostat. Once you've got that access, you can see every other setting, the heat setting, the away setting. Even if the user doesn't grant those specific abilities, is there a plan in the roadmap speaking towards finer grain control of attributes and security access? Is that something that's coming?
Yes, in fact, we were just discussing that in a planning meeting this week, that we recognize that as an issue. And particularly, we're looking at making, changes eventually that'll make things a little bit more flexible as far as being able to access, groups of devices and so forth. And what we would be looking for, there are a couple of changes. Right now, you can only specify one capability. And so if you wanted to be able to access 2 or 3 of 5 capabilities of a device, that's a problem. So I think those two things will go together, but we would be looking at a model where you could specify in the input, along with the capability that's used for the filter, a kind of a set of capabilities that you're granting access to, and constrain the amount of the access to those attributes and commands to that list. That is on the plan.
Thanks. All right. Gary is asking, a forum section was created to discuss adding new device capability types. Has SD decided anything regarding any of the suggestions? If they were added, how would SD notify the user dev community? Tyler, is that something that you can talk about?
What was the question?
Nice shirt, Tyler.
Tyler, we can't hear you.
Tyler, I think you're
Well, I was saying that I don't know specifically about the capability list, but that content will be put into whatever community voting system we implement, like user voice. So it's not going to end up in the forum. I can't speak to what we're doing with that right now. I know that's kind of a half answer, but that's what I can give.
Yeah, I think didn't we open up a sub forum within devices for capability specifically to discuss that further? And that was a venue for us to really hash things out.
Yes. So Gilbert, they're wondering what we're going to be doing with those and how we're going to implement them if we're going to tell the developers about that.
Yeah, I would suspect that we'll probably be using the same thread to chime in on capabilities that we would like to move forward on, or expansions or negotiations on what is the best method of working that out. Would you agree, Ben, or you have any insights on that?
Gilbert, we are, adjusting that. We've been collating that list and trying to figure out everything that we need. What? I'm too forward. And so, but yeah, that's to the point. When that's not the end-all, be-all place where we're going to do that. Right now, we are just using that as a stopgap. So we are looking at it. We're giving it to the developers, and that's being prioritized.
Cool. Any plans to enable us to say something like this app has authorized to access all devices given of a given type, so we don't have to keep reauthorizing each time we add a new light?
That would be great.
I think that might be a question more for Bob.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again? I missed part of the question.
Certainly. Is there any plans to enable us to say something like, this app is authorized to access all devices of a given type, so we don't have to keep reauthorizing each time we add a new light?
Yes, it kind of goes with the issue we were talking about before, which is, we've talked about the ability, that, it's obviously a limitation to have to select each and every device, but the more we allow that kind of flexibility, the more this issue of being able to access all the attributes of every device becomes a problem. So I think the two of those would probably, the second one would depend on the first. So that once we have the ability to say, okay, I want to grant this app access to the battery values of all my battery powered devices, but that's it. Then we would do that in a way that app, you wouldn't have to configure that app every time you added a new battery powered device. But we don't want to do that now when that permission will let you access any attribute of any battery powered device. So I would see both of those things coming out in kind of in combination.
I think a good first step there could be just to have like a read and a write access. So one where you're just only reading attributes and one where you're using commands.
Yeah, so at least even if the app can tell if your switches are on and your doors are locked, it can't unlock your doors. Right?
Exactly.
Jody, you just said that you open sourced thingslayer.net.
It's open, it's up, everything is on GitHub now.
Oh, that's really cool. How's it going?
One person has installed it successfully.
I'm not familiar. Can you give an overview of what it is?
It's the base component of, it's not really supposed to be a dashboard. It does have some dashboard-ish stuff, but it's a real-time control and a web interface for interacting with SmartThings. Has graphing features, uses Firebase as a real-time backend.
Cool. Did you put a post about that? I'm just curious to see if.
Yeah, it's in the projects.
I just pasted in chat too.
Oh, awesome. Ooh, and it looks like Ash has been working on a module that integrates existing hardware sensors like via Zigbee with dynamic control of zones, contact versus motion versus glass break. That sounds really cool too. But then he just left. I guess he landed. Mike is asking about the update of child device issues. Can you elaborate on that, Mike?
Basically, if you create a smart app that creates child devices, and then you take said child devices and move them into your group computers, and then go delete the smart app, the child devices remain.
Yeah, there's a fix for that that's being tested and has not yet been deployed, but we expect it to be this week. I think that's the ghost devices, right? We ran into with you and other things, Gilbert, right? Is that the same problem we're talking about? You delete the service manager and the device seems to stay around.
Yeah, I think that's the case. Does the device still show up in the IDE in that case?
It doesn't show up in the device list in the IDE. If you can see it, and you can't see it in the group list. You can only see it in the the phone app. It's really weird. And I've had the same issue with smart apps doing that too. And in all cases, when you go to delete it, you get a violation. So the user can't delete the thing, and you can't move it out of the group either. It pops back. Very
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, so hopefully, I think that we were gonna do a platform deploy, but we want to fix a few more things in there. So if it is going to be in the next one, it should be in the next couple of days.
Yeah, we normally do those on Thursday. I'm not sure that we've caught all of the examples of that, but the thing we fixed is something along those lines, and it's based on the fact that there is a kind of a race condition in deleting the access control list tables, and so what happens is the device is still there. Some of its ACLs have been deleted, and so that's why it doesn't show up in the IDE and the lists of the groups and whatever, but there is still a device object there. So I think that would be a thing to retest after this next release, which is typically Thursday or Friday, and if it's still happening to you in some case next week, definitely let us know, and if we can get a reproducible case, we'll look at that one as well.
Hey, Bob, do you know?
I've got a reproducible case, all right. The issue is that once I start polluting my stuff, the help desk can't help me fix it, and it takes days and days and days before somebody can, start cleaning stuff up.
Bob, do you know if we're going to do cleanup or if there's any type of scripting to go along with it to remove some of these ghost devices?
Yes, I believe the engineer that's working on this has created a script to identify these cases and clean them up. So,
is that just specific to the devices, or is that going to encompass smart apps too?
The problem that we identified in this release has to do with deleting like parent, service manager type smart apps with child devices. I don't know for sure whether it would also deal with child smart apps or not.
Okay, because I've got that situation too, and I don't know whether those smart apps can't be deleted because we got in the race condition and the devices couldn't be deleted. I'm not sure. I currently, one of your guys deleted all my devices today that were suspect to that, but I still have like 6 smart app instances that I think were crashes in the IDE and they got left behind. So, I mean, the other situation with smart apps happens too. That one I'm not able to reproduce because I don't know exactly how it happened other than, I was initially trying to develop this in the IDE, and when you lose your session and, you've got a place to disconnect it, I don't think it really uninstalls things clean.
Yeah, and when you look at, one thing to look at there is the lists and whether you have one of those little session attributes and clean them up there. There are some cases with lost sessions where you'll have an app that's still installed, but usually, at least in most cases, it shows up in the list of smart apps as which location has that IDE copy installed.
Yeah, they do, but you can't delete them.
Oh, so it shows up there. You click on that, it just doesn't delete it.
Yeah, it says you can't even open the properties on it. You get a permission denied error. When you just go tap the instance of the smart app that's in this condition, where normally you would see a property page, which would include, a delete button. You don't even see that.
Right.
So.
Right. Do you have these that are doing this right now?
Yeah, I've got 8 instances of this app I can't delete.
Okay, we should just, if you can forward the information to support, someone in support can send that to me and I can have someone look at that.
I think they already, I think they may already.
Do we have a ticket for this?
What's that?
I was asking more, if our support guys, if we already have a ticket for that, we should escalate that.
Yeah,
is on it right now.
Okay.
Mike,
How do you want me to proceed with this? Who should I give the information to?
What did you say, Ben?
We'll contact you, Mike. We're going with it right now.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Thanks.
Cool. And then you had another question regarding, is import supported in IDE of Groovy objects or needed or unneeded because of sandboxing.
That wasn't my question.
That was my question, April. I see a lot of source examples where people are using the import function to import things like JSON Builder and what have you. But then I've tried to import some other Groovy-based things that should be there, but obviously are restricted. Is that just redundant code unnecessary, or are there a list of importable objects that aren't natively available but could be made available?
The general approach has been to make helper functions to parse JSON and whatever so that you don't have to deal with imports. That was the intent. I'm not sure that we caught all of them, and I think in some cases, for instance, there is a parse JSON helper method that does use a Groovy JSON parser to do that. But some people, being more familiar with the class themselves, have imported that. And so, yeah, if the class is whitelisted in the sandbox, you can import it. If it isn't, it's not. And so we're probably not going to. I don't know. I think this has come up before. We're doing a documentation overhaul. We can look at whether there's some set of classes. I don't know that we want to publish the entire whitelist right now, but if there are classes that don't have helper methods that are in the sandbox and are usable, we could look at adding them to the documentation.
Sure, I think it
came up just.
Yeah, go ahead, Jody.
Came up just this week. There was a user on the forum who's trying to write a Fitbit client, and it has a special 5-step process, and he was trying to import an OAuth library that is a fairly common OAuth library in Groovy, but it wouldn't import at all.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get a little bit updated whether or not it's trial and error or if there's specific things we should not be trying to do. I know you don't want to list all of the things that are either whitelisted or blacklisted, but it'd be nice to know, what are the most commonly used things that we might need to import that are acceptable.
Yeah, we can look at that. And as I said, the intent is to try to not make people have to deal with imports, but I mean, I don't think we've covered everything. I don't know the specifics of this OAuth library and whether we consider whitelisting it or not. I mean, that would be a good thing. I don't know if we have a place for that on forums, but kind of along with capabilities, a suggested list of libraries to consider for whitelisting might be something we could entertain maintaining on the forum somewhere.
Yeah.
Cool. Does anyone else want to share their projects?
Before that, April, if you don't mind me jumping in, I know that Mike Maxwell had a question about documentation of methods or properties that aren't documented, and where the boundary is between not supported yet available to see in the IDE and example code. And I just wanted to acknowledge that that is a source of frustration that I see. And Bob, I know that you may have some history around this area where maybe we've added some methods internally that are in flux and in kind of an experimental state, and we didn't document them perhaps intentionally. But now that people have seen the code, we're kind of in a situation where I think we should at least be communicating that those methods are use at your own risk, likely to change without much notice. That's something that we need to talk about. I just want to acknowledge, Mike, that that's something that we need to look at and get better at. And Bob, I don't know if you want to weigh in with any thoughts on history.
I mean, well, that is the case. What we've done is sometimes not coordinated. We've add methods. We don't document them, if we think that they might change or might be, some sort of issue. We haven't been great because we are kind of, started off so resource constrained with really trying to keep the API as small as possible. So there's some redundant methods, and we'd like to tighten that up. Jim and I have been talking about that, and as we discover these things and making a decision on a case-by-case basis, is this a method we document and consider part of the API right now, or leave as a use at your own risk type method. We've tried to not put those apps in as examples, but I think some have slipped through.
Cool. Does anyone else want to share their projects? I'm curious what the community is doing.
I'm curious what Todd is doing if he's still on the call. Todd's always fiddling with something. Did he leave?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I'm here. Let's see. Actually, I was working on something that Mr. Maxwell was doing the exact same thing. So I kind of got shot down on that one. So Mike, maybe you can explain what you just posted out today. That was really nice.
It's not a complete. It's not a complete app. I really just posted that to Gary as an example of how to do dynamic pages with a dynamic number of count of pages rather than being stuck pre-configuring the number of pages a user might want. And so it was kind of an exercise in trying to figure out how to create pages from a template where the user could figure out how many of them he needed just by adding another device, or in this case, a group of devices. So basically what this is supposed to be, once we get through this device bug, is a state capture machine that basically the user goes through and creates a group of devices, and then within those devices they can create an X number of scenes, and the scenes are it's a capture replay sort of deal. But this one takes it kind of to the next level, because the actual virtual device that gets created for each one of these scenes is it has a button on there allowing you to capture the state scene right from the device tile, rather than having to go back into the Smart app. So I'm just kind of playing around with stuff, seeing how far this stuff can be pushed, and learning a lot along the way. But anyway, if this works, it might be a decent scene machine too, so to speak.
But I thought it was excellent, though, that you can put those groups together with dynamic pages. And I saw some people chiming in on that you were showing how to pass parameters between the different pages that you were building dynamically. That was cool. I know you kind of hit a roadblock, but then made it past there. But what the actual Gilbert developed a wife sensor. He knows my wife is home. I got to go.
And his puppy's trying to feed him.
Back to the point, though. Capturing this state of devices that could be later replayed, such as your virtual devices, is really cool. I think a lot of users will appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been challenging. I've been working on this for 3 weeks now, and Groovy's new to me, and certainly ST is new to me. So it started. I hope it ends up being useful. I don't know. It's primarily I wrote it to take care of my Hues, but the Hue device update situation is kind of frustrating. So, but we'll get it out there. It's almost done. Basically, we just have to get this device child problem out of the way, because somebody makes a mistake with it, it's just going to generate support tickets.
Tyler lives on those.
Tyler didn't do support anymore.
On chat, it seems like everyone's sharing their projects now, or what they're working on, which is really cool. Thanks, guys. Just want to reiterate that we're gonna have some guest speakers on in 2 weeks, and they're gonna be from Grove Stream, hopefully. So, thank you again for setting that up, Patrick. That's awesome.
My pleasure. They're excited.
I am. I'm sorry. I really don't like talking in front of people, so it's really I get really embarrassed really easily. So anyways, bear with me.
Well, you're in the perfect job for that then.
I know. So
no, Mike and Mike
still here?
Mike and Mike are really excited. We're talking one of the biggest data nerds out there, so he's crazy. The first conversation I had with him was extremely intense about aggregate data.
April, it's really weird that you say you don't like talking in front of people, because when I met you, you basically were talking in front of people for 10 hours straight, 4 days straight. So.
It's different when it's like on a trade show. It's just, it's easy, and you're just inviting everyone to your bedroom to talk about smart things. What? No one went to CES?
Yeah, I know.
Ben, can you talk about the SIM ban, Ben?
Who was that addressed to?
You.
And can you talk about the SIM ban you saw yesterday?
I stepped out of the demo before the SIM ban was shown. Jack, were you in there? You guys were in there.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Oh, yeah, no.
You weren't in the SIM ban thing? Okay, one of you.
Yeah.
What was cool about it?
Can't hear.
All right, here we go. We're talking about it.
Okay, we got someone from Samsung came in and showed us the SIM ban yesterday. It was cool. It seemed like it was a little bit in a beta stage, kind of like an early stage device. There aren't really any publicly available APIs or anything. Kind of software integrations they have, I guess. And it was pretty cool. It just had sensors in it with diodes for EEG or ECG, sorry, and wet, like skin resistance.
Yeah, galvanic response. Really sensitive photo sensor, so it could actually measure dilation in blood vessels.
Right, that's Carl speaking. You want?
Yeah, sure. The other cool thing is they were talking about like module on the side that would allow for like third parties to add devices and sensor capabilities to it.
Yeah, okay. It was essentially a Samsung Gear S with a cool little attachment on the band itself. The SIM band is the band and not a watch, but there aren't really a whole lot of different watches available right now because there's only a few people available. Like, you can't really sign up for the SDK. Like, they don't really have it available to anybody. I think they're pretty soon.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing I saw at Mobile World Congress last week, coolest relatable thing, I guess, to Samsung and SmartThings was I did really like the Galaxy S6 phone. It's very nice. It has, it could make me leave my iPhone. I could see it possibly. There was a bunch of other stuff that we showed in private that I can't talk about, but it's awesome. So you'll have to wait and see. Sorry. Well, the S6 looks like an iPhone if it's not the Edge one, but the S6 with the edges is like really amazing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so now Major joins the call, like with 0 minutes left, negative 5 minutes left. Major decides to join.
I was listening.
Are you on metaphor?
I was listening the whole time. I'm in a closet.
He is. He's in the friggin'. Come out, Major. Come out.
My office. This is my office.
I love
You
it.
have more desk space than the Minneapolis team.
I know.
That's a really big closet.
Other than touring Major's house, is there anything else people want to talk about?
I want to know what SmartThings Major has set up in his home.
Not enough.
Not much. I have a studio apartment with this multi right here. This dimmer. Pretty much it.
Aren't you guys supposed to eat your own dog food?
I got way more. Way more than that.
Definitely are. Yeah.
Oh, how cute!
Now Jim's gonna walk around his house.
Right about here.
My cat's not as cute.
Ben and Major, what are the things going on at South by Southwest?
So Friday afternoon, we're doing the official South by Southwest Create Happy Hour. It's from like 5 to 6. We'll try to extend it a little bit. Hundreds of people will be there just hanging out, networking, giving away a kit. And then following that, we're going to the Hardware House, which is, there's like 15 different hardware startups. We're going to give a quick demo. And then Saturday, Dan has a talk. We'll check that out. And then Sunday, it's called the Connected Barbecue. So the company called Vinley, and they do like car tech. So it's a few networking events there in Texas. You should come if you're in the neighborhood.
I'm going to be there Friday and Saturday. I don't think I can get into the thing on Saturday, but does the Connected House, does it require a badge, or can you get in with the Splash Pass?
Yeah, I don't think you need a badge. And if you want to get a day badge, I could probably hook you up somehow for free.
I'll talk to you about it on Friday then.
All right.
All right, guys. We just all need to find out where Gilbert lives, and we need to steal his dog.
Hey, Gilbert, I'll trade you a wife for a dog.
I already have a wife. I can't have another.
You have two. More fun, believe me.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us this week. It's always great to see all your faces. Even the lurkers, the ones that never want to talk. How dare you?
Oh, look at that picture. The puppy.
Major's getting super jealous. He's like, my puppy wants attention too. They're both so cute. We need to bring them into the office.
Hey, I tell you what, I'd like to pose a challenge to the community here. We recently had to put down one of our dogs after 16 years. We're going to get a new dog. I need a SmartThings flavored name for the new dog. So post it up on the community if you have any ideas. And
Zigbee.
Tiles.
Zigbee.
Zigbee.
Zigbee is so cute.
No, and I'll do a little commercial with him. Okay.
Oh my gosh, Patrick, that's a really big fluffy.
That's my doggy. High five. Oh, come on. It's not going to do it.
What's his name?
This is Coco.
Coco.
Up here. Yeah, shouldn't do much tricks.
And I can't name the dog I Crash SmartThings.
Oh, dang it, I was hoping.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks.
All right, see you guys.
Bye. High five.
Good night.
All right, see you later. I'm out of here.